When two of the most powerful men clash, we bring in two of the most powerful guests we know in the Final Five to break it all down. Let's bring in Fox 5 contributor and Democratic commentator Kevin Walling and conservative strategist Chris Johnson, both up late with me tonight here on the Final Five. Hi, guys.
That is the best intro I think we've ever had.
Can I go now after that? That was great.
It's all downhill after that.
A little bit here.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you know, we're not mornings with Maria because if you haven't seen, he's been national. This guy's on Fox News all the time. This guy's on Fox Business. But you're here tonight.
It all started here, man. You were the first guy to give me a shot, and so it's all because of the Final Five, man.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about what we saw go down today. Because originally, we had you coming in. We were going to talk about Big Beautiful Bill, really what looked like a fracturing dynamic between President Trump and Elon Musk. It really did hit a fever pitch today. And look, I'm going to ask you, as you're watching this from the Democratic side, did you see this coming?
I think we all did, right? I mean, you've got two really powerful egos, right? You've got the most powerful man politically in the world and the most wealthy man in the world. And they're somewhat beholden to one another, right? Elon Musk, in the recent, just hours, has claimed credit for Trump's election and flipping the House and the Senate for Republicans. And again, you've got an ego on Donald Trump that returned to the Oval Office. And I think we all knew this was likely to explode at some point. It's a powder keg when these two get together. I don't think anyone predicted how quickly it would go down and how viciously it would go down in these last couple of hours.
As you're looking at this with Big Beautiful Bill, with a lot of these conservative priorities that are tied up in this, do you think that that's at risk as things stand right now?
I think they're at risk either way. There already is going to be tension between the Senate side and the House side on the Big Beautiful Bill. But to the Elon aspect of it, I think you can say that potentially there was risk that this was all going to blow up because of their personalities and egos. But I think there was real hope, especially among younger conservatives, that the tech right embracing the conservative movement, the GOP, would be this really great opportunity to win and go and do big things and move fast and break things the way that the tech world does. I wrote an op-ed a few months ago talking about why big tech, why Mark Andreessen and Elon Musk and Peter Thiel are so interested in the GOP, is they thought you can take this America First energy, you can build stuff here, you can do all this, blow up the economy, change things, rebuild it to make sure the 21st century is an American century, and then also build in a lot of the traditional conservative values. And unfortunately, because there is just not the governing expertise that Elon, he's run businesses, government's a different entity, and then the sort of like policy sophistication that President Trump often, unfortunately, lacks at times, this was just, unfortunately, I think to a certain degree, somewhat inevitable.
And as you see where we go from here, I mean, again, there's a talk about what votes they might lose along the way if they'll lose votes in the Senate getting this bill. And then if they make big changes, it has to go back to the House. And suddenly you have a lot of members of the House thinking, hey, if I deviate here, Elon Musk is threatening primary challenges. I mean, there's a lot of money still to be spent. The question is Elon Musk willing to continue to dump his money into national politics?
It's a really good question. I think he is, right? And we haven't seen a White House this engaged, Republican or Democrat, in the midterm strategy, right? So a lot of on the right, a lot of the candidate recruitment, a lot of the funding is flowing through the White House. Now, if you have Elon Musk on the outside promising to try and tank this bill and go after elected folks that have supported this effort, it's going to be interesting to see this dynamic at play. I think Democrats just kind of sit back and maybe watch this dynamic play out. But to Chris's point, and we saw the speaker today say, we don't want a lot of changes back, right?
Sure.
That's going to have to then be revoted on. I give the speaker actually a lot of credit. With a very small majority, he's almost Pelosi-esque in his ability to deliver on these priorities, and that's a high compliment, right? Yeah. You haven't seen that.
Does it hurt you to say that?
Yeah, it does. You haven't seen that from John Boehner. You haven't seen that from Kevin McCarthy, certainly. But with a small majority, he's been tactically able to keep that together. Surprising Chuck Schumer on the government funding fight, certainly. But we'll see what John Thune does on the Senate side.
Yeah, and ultimately, what he's saying is exactly right, that Johnson is going to say that you don't want changes to this bill. They worked really hard to get to this point where this thin majority is on board with the bill as is, and any shifts in that policy can really move votes in one direction or another. But what might be an interesting dynamic is we end up seeing this bill turn into two bills. So we're already seeing that being discussed, where you have one bill that focuses on the stuff that everybody agrees on, and then you move on to a second bigger, more beautiful bill that is
smaller, more challenging, but just as pretty. But for Republicans.
But then we can duke it out and have some of these fights, especially by that point. Hopefully, the Elon Trump thing has somewhat netted out, and we know where they stand with each other. But even if that doesn't happen, if they're both willing to fund primary challengers, it could be a really interesting set of primary fights where you have a real fight over the heart of the GOP, and a primary where the sole decider is not just who did President Trump endorse, is a much better process to getting the best candidate possible.
Just about out of time. I just wanted to point out, and we acknowledged this earlier, that tonight is the 8-year anniversary of this show, and you guys have both been so willing to come on.
I have never worn a tie before on the Final Five.
I think we'll have to go back and look at the tape.
8 years tonight.
But you've been on for a long while. You've only been coming on for the last couple of years, but one of the coolest things about doing the show is not just having great conversations, but actually I get to call both of you friends.
Yeah.
And so thank you both for coming in tonight. I really appreciate you. I treasure our friendship. And here's to, I don't want to say 8 more years because I don't know what.
8 more years. 4 more years. 8 more years.
Guys, thank you both. We appreciate it.
Congratulations, Jim.
Thank you very much.
Great work.
And we are back with more here on Your Final Five.